All right. So I don't know, I'm playing around with all sorts of fun stuff, trying to figure out StreamYard. It's different for me over here. Don't know why, but it is. Um, anyways, I skipped all the music and all the preamble and stuff. Um, before I really get started, coffee. American Pride Roasters is my coffee of choice. And yeah, go check them out. Lots of great flavors. Supporting small business who supports me by letting me talk about them, and every now and then I buy coffee from them. It works out. American Pride Roasters, historically great coffee. All right, so there is so much to get into today. With I had planned on talking about a federal case that could overturn Wicker v. Filburn. I might get into that a little bit later, but I would be remiss if I did not talk about the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. Um, yeah, it was completely shocking, and I know that politically things in the country have not been great, and going back to 2016 when Donald Trump won, and January 20th, 2017 when he was inaugurated, and you had the violence and the rioting breaking out in Washington D.C. and throughout Donald Trump's presidency and going into 2020 after George Floyd, and everything really devolved into the summer of love and cuddles. And it, then you go forward to, you know, obviously January 6th, 2021, and what happened that day. And the mass protest, I don't have a problem with. The people who walked calmly through the Capitol, I don't have a problem with. The people who engaged in violence and were beating cops with flagpoles, I have a problem with. The people who were smashing the windows, I have a problem with. The idiots who put up the gallows in front of the Capitol and, yeah, we're gonna hang Mike Pence. Woo-wee! I have a problem with those people. Like today, you can have lots of people who disagree on both sides of an argument, on both sides of things, the both sides of the political aisle. That is fine. However, today, about 5 minutes into Donald Trump's speech at his rally in Pennsylvania, some jackass started taking shots at Donald Trump. Donald Trump, by the grace of God or whomever your supreme deity of choice is, was relatively unscathed. As he pointed out, he does have a hole in his ear that was not there before the speech. And Secret Service took down the shooter. And this has led to a lot of rampant speculation on so many different fronts. I mean, within minutes, I mean, you had people, oh, the shooter's in the crowd. You had, you know, news agencies, CNN, NBC, the AP. You know, CNN, I think, was probably one of the more egregious. Secret Service escorts Donald Trump after fall on stage. NBC had one headline: Donald Trump leaves stage after loud noises. Like, Donald Trump is suddenly Brick Tamlin, who instead of just shouting loud noises, he runs away from them. And the bias was almost immediate to come out, as well as jackasses on Twitter who, you know, hashtag one job seemed to be a thing for a little bit this evening, and so many others. It's just ungodly the way people have been reacting. Like, if people on the left got very upset that people on the right were making fun of what happened to Paul Pelosi, which I may have done that. I'd have to go back and listen to some podcasts from that time to see if I joined in. But they very upset about what happened to Paul Pelosi, and people on the right making fun of it. You know, saying things like being a gay hammer party or stuff like that. But then the people on the left, the hashtag one job. You had one job. You have people, the it's like should have been a little bit to the right. Openly gloating that some asshole who is yet to be identified tried to assassinate a candidate for president. Because why? Donald Trump said mean things you don't like. Donald Trump has a election platform that you're not a fan of. You're going to gloat over the near assassination of this man because of political squabble? I am as outraged at the attempt on Donald Trump's life as I was what happened on January 6th. I am as outraged. But I think I'm more outraged at the callousness of these leftist a-holes who they don't care that there's a person in critical condition after Donald Trump was hit and he got down, the Secret Service got on top of him. They just seem to open up on the crowd. They don't seem to care that there's a person in critical condition. They don't seem to care that somebody freaking died there in the stands. They don't care about that shit. Pardon my language. Because collateral damage, the ends justify the means. Woo! It is absolutely unfathomable that people put such petty political bullcrap over that other victims. As far as they're concerned, just less MAGA people to deal with. Hearty, hearty, hear. It's like, no. If this was a Biden rally and some right-wing kook did this at a Biden rally, I would be this upset. If the Laura Loomers and Brendan Dillies and all these other MAGA ass clowns were making similar comments. I should have been a little bit further to the right. Well, the less libs to deal with. Herp, herp, herp. I would be equally pissed. Because this is the stuff of pre-Civil War. This is the stuff that led to Charles Sumner being caned to within an inch of his life on the Senate floor. And the response is the same as what the left is doing now. Yeah, sure. The congressman who beat him to within an inch of his life was censured and kicked out of Congress. Then he won a special election and went right back into Congress. But you had Democrats scrambling for the bits of the shattered cane. You had Democrats sending new canes. You had you had organizations sending monogrammed canes that said "hit them again." It's the exact same thing as these freaking wackos who are, oh, should have been a little bit more to the right. And then you get into the always fun thing of speculating on the shooter. Speculating on the shooter. I'm not going to say the name that came out earlier because whether this alleged Antifa guy is actually Antifa or not, or whatever, I'm not going to say his name because his name's already been thrown out there and dragged through the mud as, oh, this is the shooter. This is who was being drug out of the stands. Well, no, the guy being drug out of the stands was being moved to a place where an ER doctor who happened to be there was trying to perform life-saving measures on the victim of the shooter. Because you can see him in the video doing chest compressions once they get him down and onto a seat or onto one of the benches. And you can see him doing the chest compressions. You see him in an interview afterwards saying exactly what was caught on video. So no, that wasn't it. That was not the guy. But you already have the speculation. I get it. We want justice for some because some idiot just tried to do this to any political candidate. But can we let the facts come in? I saw someone on Twitter earlier before I came on saying, "Yep, the 24-hour rule always seems to work for me and has never failed." Because again, you have the clowns. This guy put a video up on his YouTube saying Donald Trump's going to be punished. This is the shooter, blah, 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 blah. No. Don't even know. And it turns out the fat Hispanic guy that everyone was floating his picture around was actually a scrawny Asian guy. And that's all we know right now. There's been a number of interviews on the scene of what was going on afterwards. And one of the eyewitnesses was at the AGR building. Said they were kind of having a party, and when it got close to time for Donald Trump to speak, everyone went outside into the trees where it'd be shady. They couldn't see anything, but they could hear the speech. And people were giving him crap because he got one of those visors that has the spiky, longish hair coming out of the top of it. Well, you trust a witness that looks like this? Herp, herp, herp. Well, everything that he says lines up with what we know now. So I'm pretty sure I'm willing to trust that guy and his witness statement based off of that. They noticed a guy crawling on the roof, and they noticed that he had a gun. And then he was trying to alert the police. Hey, 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 there's a guy with a gun over there. He's on the roof. There's a guy with a gun. Several minutes before he was shooting. And I didn't hear all the questions from the BBC reporter who was interviewing him. And the guy even said, yeah, he was like bear crawling, low crawling, and staying below the top of the ridge line of the roof. And then when you see the pictures of his oh yeah, I guess this guy's pronouns are now was were. When you see was were's body, he is below the apogee of the roof. So he got hit and then he fell back down below the line of sight. And people are saying, and I do have questions about this. This is legit is going to bug me. These are questions that need to be answered. When the threat assessment was done, was this building marked as a target? Was there security to try to keep people from getting near this building besides employees or other people who might have a legitimate reason to be there? Was this was this was this building a known entity where the sniper team that was on the building behind the Donald Trump grandstand were was were they already aware enough to maybe keep an eye on it? But I did see video um, from a different angle. It's a cell phone footage where once the shooting starts and you have people, you have not the bee, which I love not the bee. Yeah, they're the people behind Babylon Bee. Like they watched the entire time. They didn't shoot until he fired. There should be prison time for this. And it's like I go and I watch the video. Pardon me. There's a little background on me. I know I've talked about it before, but I was in the military. I was an infantryman. And on one of my duties as an infantryman is I was a squad designated marksman, meaning I had a little extra training. I wasn't a sniper elite or anything. I did have a crash course from snipers over the, you know, about the same length as sniper school, but without the depth that went into things like target acquisition and all this. And watching the gun team on that roof, and you have to watch several times to kind of see how things line up. The same shot where Donald Trump reaches up and grabs his ear because he got grazed by that bullet. There's one sniper who's taking a knee with his rifle on a tripod, and you see his head come up. He picks up the muzzle flash, and then he grabs the whole tripod and moves it to get a better angle to where he can get the shooter in his glass. And it's not a huge movement, maybe 20 degrees tops. But I was able to pick that up, and I point this out. It's like, no, it's like you can see him clearly move the whole tripod and adjust. Yeah, he was looking over there, and maybe the guy who saw the dude on the roof. Maybe police had gotten traffic through. It's like, hey, watch this roof, and he was just looking at a different part of it. Because 150 yards through a scope, you're not seeing the entire roof. You have a limited field of view. But even then, if the shooter is staying low and keeping below the top of the ridge cap of that roof so that he is not silhouetting himself, it's going to make it more difficult to be able to identify him until there's a muzzle flash to be seen. When it's a low target who is behind defilade, defilade is one of them fancy $5 army words, meaning you have your body mostly mostly protected and you know unable to be viewed because of the terrain. I mean, yeah, it from 150 yards away, it could be birds on the roof. You don't know. And so the people trying to malign the snipers from Secret Service for not shooting him before he got a shot off. Um, I'm sorry. That's just not how it always works. It's not always the movies where it's like, oh, guy with the gun, bam, he's down. There's also not a requirement, for as far as rules of engagement for that. Well, we have to let him shoot. That's the reason why we didn't open fire. No, no, no. There's a huge difference between active hostility and hostile intent. I guarantee for a Secret Service sniper running counter sniper mission for the president, the vice president, a presidential candidate. If they see a person on a roof and they have a weapon and it is even generally pointed in the direction of their charge, that is hostile intent. And they are clear to dome a mother lover. I know that might be a little harsh, might be a little hard to hear, but I speak plainly and I speak the truth. There is no reason to say these guys did not do their job. They 100% did their job exactly as a counter sniper team would. Once shots had already happened, because they were scanning their sector, which did not include where this clown was. First shot went off. Head came up off the rifle. Second shot happened. Head goes to the rifle and he jerks the entire stand to where he has the shooter in the glass. And when he had the opportunity to take the shot, because you hear the initial volley of pop, 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 pop. Then you hear another volley. It could be return fire pinning him down. I don't know. I wasn't there. I haven't seen. It's going to be 3 years before we see a full report from the FBI on what exactly happened. Once they take depositions of the tactical response units, local police, the Secret Service detail that was running the counter sniper mission. So it could have been him going, ah, crap, I missed. I'm just going to put some rounds into the audience. But then you hear, after that second volley, you hear a much louder, much more distinct pop. And it was then that the Secret Service, who had already, tackled Donald Trump and got down over him to protect him, put their lives on the line for this man. And you can hear all this because the mics are still on. You hear shooter down, clear up on me, and they get Donald Trump up, which, at this point, as when the initial reports were popping up on Twitter, you had clones. Oh yeah, something bad happened. Donald Trump touched his ear. Oh boy. And but then you start seeing the video of Donald Trump standing up, and when you see the bloody right ear where he got grazed, and then you start seeing some of the still pictures that came out of it. You know, one is an upward angle from one of the journalists in the front row looking up Donald Trump, and you see the where he was down on the ground, and the blood has just run down his face. Then, as Donald Trump is being pushed off the stage by Secret Service, they're doing their jobs. Mr. Trump, you have to go. You have to go. And he is balking and putting his fist in the air, shouting, "Fight, fight, fight." As Mr. President, or Mr. Trump, we have to go. And they got him into the armored SUV, and then got him to medical treatment. I I my hat is off to the Secret Service and how well they performed, regardless of what people may say that, well, he didn't do his job, blah blah blah. He let him get shot. Well, you know what? It's not. Sometimes you cannot prevent evil from happening. Sometimes you cannot stop a bad thing. Sometimes you do like this counter sniper did, and you react as quickly and effectively as possible. And he did just that. But because Donald Trump had the sheer audacity to say fight, 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 pumping his fist in the air as he's being led off, CNN's like, and this kind of rhetoric is what's driving up the political violence in this country. Oh, shut up. CNN, didn't you have an anchor? I can't think of his name. His brother was the governor of New York. Chris Cuomo. Yeah, Chris Cuomo. Isn't he the one who, in all the 2020 rioting was going on after George Floyd? No one said a protest has to be peaceful, which led to the great TikTok video of the guy eating the cold ramen noodles, pointing to the First Amendment, going, the right to peacefully protest. Yeah, about that, Chris. I think you kind of dropped the ball. Is Donald Trump the one driving up the rhetoric when you have clowns like, her name, Maxine Waters. Her name was trying to escape me there for a second. Maxine Waters. If you see them out at a restaurant, the shopping mall, a gasoline station, you get in their faces. And other such rhetoric. You condemn the right. They did, the right did this, that, and the other. But you won't look at yourselves. CNN, MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS. You have local reporters from Seattle, which I'm shocked. A leftist nut job from Seattle. Color me surprised. Again, one of these people lamenting that the shooter missed. I mean, if something bad happens and you're hoping the potential victim does not survive, or you lament that the criminal failed to do what they attempted to do, this is where you become the meme of the German soldier asking Avisa Patties? Yeah, you're the baddie, dumbass. Believe me, I hope for failure for the left. I hope things don't work out for the left, but I don't hope they die. I don't hope some clown wanting to mete out violence on a leftist fulfills whatever their mission is. Now, I've still never heard anyone from the left condemn the guy who nearly took out 10% of Congress, or of congressional Republicans who were part of the that congressional softball game, or they were at practice, and the nut job Bernie Sanders supporter says, I haven't heard the left say anything bad about that guy. They were smart enough to not say anything good either. The other one is Steve Scalise almost died. But for the grace of God, he survived his injuries. He had great doctors, had to do multiple surgeries. And then he comes back to Congress. He's a hell of a fighter. And then at some point, he just said, to hell with being a fighter. I'm just going to go along to get along because it gets me more money. And that's a whole nother story there. But yeah, I have seen some people who have already come out, and you know, people who were, I don't know if I'm going to vote for Trump, who's solidly there voting for Trump. I have a hat that says I am voting for the convicted felon. I think it's kitschy. I think it's funny. Ha ha. Now, I am not going to be, making any proclamations about who I am supporting tonight. Because as I put on one of my Facebook posts, I am not I am not a Trump sycophant, nor am I never Trump. But this smells a lot like the 1960s Weather Underground bullcrap. Political violence for the sake of political violence. And I can't say much about the shooters, and there's not much known. I know he's of Asian descent. Someone on Twitter had reported that he's Chinese. Is he a Chinese American? Is he from China over here on some sort of school visa? I don't know. All I know is that uh, he is no longer with us, to put it mildly. Doc Thompson used to, told the story about how when they were kids, if an animal died, they said it was on the roof to try to, spare the heartache about the pet being dead. And that has just been a long running joke. Me and my many internet friends who spent much time listening to Doc Thompson before his tragic death. And I do appreciate the irony that the shooter is on the roof, both figuratively and literally. I just this where the not nice me wants to come in. Just like, I hope that they just kind of kicked him over to the edge and just kind of bloop, off the side you go, splat. Unfortunately, that is frowned upon because it's, you know, desecrating a corpse or something. So, yeah, there's that. Anywho, I think I'm gonna get back into what I really wanted to talk about tonight, and that is the possible legal maneuvers to have Wicker v. Filburn overturned at the Supreme Court. And this all starts 156 years ago when the U.S. government, in all of their wisdom, if you want to call it that, decided they were going to do away with home distilling. I don't know why in the 1870s they decided that home distilling was so bad, but they did. And I think it has a lot to do with a lot of money coming from you know, the, the distilleries who were, the bigger ones at the time. It's like, well, if we can get the government to ban home distilling, then they'll have to come to us. Yeah. And for a long time, this was enforced through wild interpretation of the Commerce Clause. Well, fast forward to the Great Depression and food rationing and quotas, and you know the government paying farmers to not grow crops in order to drive up prices. Um, you had a farmer by the name of Wicker who he was a wheat farmer. He also had his own cows and other livestock. And so he said, this many acres will make this much wheat, which will get sold. And then this over here is going to be so we can have wheat, we can, we can grind up flour, we can do, you know, like kind of barley soups, but wheat soup, stuff like that. And we can eat it and we can feed it to our cows so we're not having to buy grain. It's a brilliant idea. And he was found out and he was fined. And he went and eventually made it to the Supreme Court that, Your Honor, this grain is not going into, interstate, going to be used for interstate commerce. It's not even going to be used for local commerce. It's going to be used for my family to eat and my cows to eat. And in some amazing legal legal mental gymnastics, the Supreme Court acknowledged that, well, yes, we understand that you're doing this for your own personal use. However, even if your own small amount were to make it the into the trade, into the interstate commerce, it probably wouldn't have a great effect. But the problem lies in is if everyone who's growing their own wheat for their own use decides that, oh, I grew too much for my family and my livestock, I will also sell it. When you have all the farmers selling their extra into the and going into interstate commerce, then it will have an effect. And the artificially high wheat prices, they will come down, and that would be bad. So, yes, this does fall under the purview of the Commerce Clause. Well, uh, there is a home distilling association, and they had four members who took up a federal suit, and you know, three of them were pretty much, yeah, you don't have anything going here. But the fourth one, he caught a nice little letter, and a nasty gram, if you will, saying that it has come to our attention that you are brewing alcohol, you are distilling alcohol at home. And we cannot abide this because you are avoiding taxes. So he's fighting it. And because, hey, what I'm doing here, I'm not selling it. Yes, I bought a still. Yes, I do buy grain and distill it, and I have to buy jars to put it in. But the alcohol itself is not being sold, it's being consumed at home by me. And so it went before a federal court who then ruled this 156-year-old law banning the home distillation of spirits is unconstitutional because, under the purview of the Commerce Clause, he is not engaged in interstate commerce, so Congress can take their 156-year-old law and stick it up their rectums. Which me, I you know, not saying that I condone or approve home distillation of spirits, because you could do it wrong. You can make methanol and you could die, or you could go blind. You don't want to go blind. Well, you know what? The people who died and went blind from moonshine during the depression, or not during the depression but during prohibition, it wasn't from the people making the liquor. No, it was because the federal government poisoning whiskey and moonshine that they seized and confiscated with methanol and other lovely products that, when consumed, led to blindness and death. Yeah, that's some great propaganda right there. That it was, oh, it's the moonshine. The guys who've been doing moonshine long enough and actually care. They know which parts of the run to throw out, because that first 10% that comes off is chock full of methanol, and it does not taste very good. And it also has compounds in it that lead to hangovers in the morning, and they don't want that, so they throw that crap out. So yeah, but however, the judge ruled that this only applies to the members of the Home Distillers Association, which I'm now looking at possibly joining. So this is a permanent injunction, not a temporary, permanent injunction, which also sets great precedent because, again, it shows that, yeah, I don't care what the Supreme Court in 1933, I think it was 1933, whatever, and Wicker v. Filburn, I don't care if they said, because it could end up being sold and could end up being part of interstate commerce. It will be regulated. This guy said, this judge ruled, no, 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 no. However, there is a 14-day hold on the enforcement of the ruling. That way, the Department of Justice has the ability to go, okay, well, yeah, we're going to appeal that, which, oh, Missouri already says in their state law that you can distill up to X amount of spirits in your home for personal use without having to pay taxes. And then you have to pay taxes if you are selling it, because then again, now you're selling hooch from an unlicensed distillery that you could be making people sick, and you need the smarty know-it-alls from the federal government to tell you that your hooch is perfectly safe. But it's I do appreciate in all of the insanity, that- which, by the way, if you want a great book on how Supreme Court and federal courts have just shredded our Constitution, I highly, highly, highly recommend you check out The Politically Incorrect Guide to the Constitution by Professor Kevin Guzman. Professor, he has his Juris Doctorate, he has his PhD. He teaches he teaches law and constitutional law. His amazing book, and like I said, Wicker v. Filburn, and he really goes into a lot of detail over not just presidents since the founding of the country that have screwed everything up, but even going all the way back to such venerated, uh, oh, pardon me, going back to such venerated Supreme Court Chief Justices as John Jay or John Marshall, and how their own political whims, they ruled a lot of stuff that wasn't, by the strict writing of the Constitution, constitutional. And they said that, I know what you're thinking, but we know better than you. And even though it says the exact opposite of the Constitution, it is constitutional. Suck it, nerds. So yeah, it's a great book. Check it out. And it, a lot of legal scholars make a huge thing out of precedents. Precedents. You know, it's not constitutional law, it's case law. And so, because of the whole reliance on stare decisis, the idea that, well, it's already been ruled on, so let so we'll just go with what they said. With stare decisis tossed out, or being turned on to ear, we're seeing precedents that are being overturned. And they talk about how precedents being overturned is a bad thing, but prior to um prior to Roe being overturned, it happened fairly regularly throughout history. You would have Supreme Courts that would issue a ruling that was clearly unconstitutional, and then 10 years later they have almost situation for situation the same trial come or same issue come before them, and they go, yeah, we know what we said 10 years ago, but yeah, we're flip-flopping on that. That is no longer a thing. We used to overturn precedent all the time. Unfortunately, well, it's a well, stare decisis and precedent. You got to follow precedent. No, you don't have to follow precedent. If we follow precedent, we could find ourselves at war with a hostile nation. I don't know. Maybe we find ourselves at war with China. And then we start going, we really don't like being at war with China because we have all these doggone Chinese people here. So what we'll do is we'll take all these people on Chinese visas and we'll kick them out. And the ones who are here who naturalize and their kids, possibly even their grandkids, we're going to round them up. And we're going to move them to a camp out in the middle of the desert. And then we're going to sell off all the crap. It's going to be great. And because we already have legal precedent says we can do this. It's called the Korematsu decision because, a Japanese American decided he was going to fight the Supreme Court or fight at the Supreme Court about being rounded up and ushered off to a camp in the middle of nowhere. Boy, why does that sound like something that happens in Europe? Oh, um, but Mr. Korematsu, he took the case to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, who was fully in the pocket of one FDR, ruled on behalf of FDR saying, no, 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 no. You see, that's perfectly constitutional because it's a time of war. You'll get your stuff back, and if you don't, you'll get fair market value for it. Being deprived of life. Well, they're not being deprived of their lives unless they tried running and got shot, but they were deprived of their liberty and they were deprived of their property without due process. So clearly a violation of the 14th Amendment and the Fifth Amendment and the Eighth Amendment, because obviously having all your, you getting carted off as a potential spy, and then vandals come in and tear up your property, people steal your property, or the government just turns around, sells off your property, and keeps all the money for itself. That really seems like a cruel and unusual punishment for the horrible crime of being Japanese after Pearl Harbor. So, yes, I highly approve this federal ruling saying that, this whole wicker idea, it might not be right after all and deserves a second look. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this week. I know it kind of came out of I'm not going to say it came out of left field, and it's a weekly thing, unless I was trying not to blow myself up with fireworks at church last weekend because, 4th of July was 2 days before. But, I took last week off. It's cool. I'm glad I was back. Again, if you're a first time listener to this show on the podcast, please remember to do the 4 things I ask every week. Number 1, please subscribe or follow, depending on what your platform says. After that, please rate the show. Looking for 5 stars. I'll accept 4, 3 and below. Follow me on Twitter at Fake Tyler Morgan. You can DM me there. My DMs are wide open. You can say, hey, I listened to your show. Frankly, I wasn't that impressed. You were a 2. Here's why I think you're a 2. I will have this conversation because I want to be better. Have the conversation with me. Now, if you're a clown and you say clownish things when you're DMing me, telling me why you only gave me 3 or less stars, I will screenshot them and I will make fun of you because that is what I do. I'm just giving you a heads up because I want you to be aware. Forewarned is forearmed, as they say. Anyways, once you have rated it, please write a review, say something nice about the show, tell people why you liked it. If you just thought the show is meh, feel free to embellish it because no one wants to see a review that says meh. It's kind of disheartening. Anyways, you have now you have completed step 3. You have followed or subscribed. You have rated the show. You give it a 5 stars because you're awesome and you think I am equally awesome. You have rated it and said this is the best podcast ever. Now, please, the last thing I ask, share this with your friends. Tell your friends all about it. Be like, hey, this guy's kind of crazy. And I couldn't confirm it because it was on audio only on a podcast, but I think he was drinking whiskey or tequila. Tonight I was drinking tequila. Don't tell my wife. He was just having a good old time riffing on the politics of the day and all that while sipping on delicious spirits. It was great. So anyways, say the nice stuff. Say things, embellish if you thought it was meh. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's great. If you do have some not not quite so kind things to say, think there could be work, please, by all means, again, in the comments, say, hey, here's what I didn't like. Because believe me, when I see new comments, I will read them. And if it's something like, yeah, he had a problem with this, he kept using these silly voices the entire time. Hey, you know what? Maybe I'll stop using the silly voices the entire time. Or it's just part of who I am. And you're going to get the voices regardless. Either way. Yeah, you get the voices. Anywho's, also don't forget YouTube, youtube.com/ at the fake Tyler, or no, not at the fake Tyler Morgan on YouTube. YouTube.com/ at the Tyler Morgan Show. Again, subscribe, thumbs up, like the video, hit the bell, get notifications whenever I post new content on the YouTubes. Again, thank you so much for listening. And as always, stay relentless. And I don't have outro graphics. But hey, you know what? I don't have outro graphics. But guess what? You didn't get intro music? I'll give you outro music. Again, thank you for listening. You're awesome. Thank you.
Is a relentless daring media production. The Tyler Morgan Show is supported by its listeners. To support the show, go to ko-fi.com/Tyler Morgan Show to donate there, or relentlessdaring.com and hit the donate button at the top of the page to set up your donation. All music used in the Tyler Morgan Show is used with permission from purpleplanet.com, link in the show notes. 2 Timothy 1:7.